intention is to help enlighten capitalism, to have our leaders awaken to their, if you will, symbiotic relationship to the whole. And when we can think about that, we can look at the stats, we can hear and listen to the fact that we're interconnected, and we can hear teachers and spiritual teachings that allude to this. It's a whole other thing when you have an awakening experience and you awaken to your own symbiotic nature. And that changes the whole game inside, because then once you know tacitly, viscerally, that I am part of all of this, my team and everything, then what happens is the decisions that we create in our businesses are aligned from this Gaia-centric consciousness rather than me-centric consciousness. And that's the big evolution, I believe, that we're here for right now. And it's a must. It's needed right now, actually.
Yeah, it's definitely needed right now, that's for sure. I mean, we interviewed someone quite recently, it was me, wasn't it? And the guy was saying that, you know, the problem with things right now, technology, it's actually, you know, it's not technology, it's the humans at the core. If they're thinking about themselves or they're thinking about shareholder value, right? It's not going to be sustainable. That old model, it's flawed, it's gone. Right now, exactly what you were saying, we need to think about everyone. And good leadership is realizing that you're not separate from the people that you have a duty of care over. You know, you are a servant, so to speak. You know, if you choose to step into any role, whether it's a CEO or any manager of people, then you know you do have a responsibility, right? And that's also for yourself. Yeah.
You know, you said it perfectly, my friend. You know, it's our responsibility to the whole. And, you know, we come from older paradigms, and that's okay. The old paradigms, we have to go through natural stages of progression in consciousness. Simply put, you know, in this model, there's me centric, and we have to be able to get strong and feel confident and feel I'm able to create my own life, reality, my own freedom, my own income, my own. This is good. But of course, that has a shadow side. And if you keep going there, it can become egocentric. It can become, in its worst form, megalomania, where the voracious appetite for fulfilling one's desires in a disconnection with the whole. Okay, so that's the me centric. And then there's businesses and individuals and leaders that are moving into or already have been established in the we centric, which is, hey, one for all for one. Let's be here together. Let's recognize that we are one human family. We are one earth family. And so with that state of being, on that heart level of consciousness, how can we do business? How can we exchange? How can we run our operations with that level of being? It's actually quite easier. It's much easier. It's not difficult at all, because when your heart opens, you get the wisdom and the clarity of how to be with others. That's automatic, spontaneous, and natural. The other ways are all contrived. But then there's a third stage. There's me, we, and then there's the good of the all, the greater good. And I believe that we have to cultivate all three. We have to take care of the self, we have to take care of our circle of influence and support in our families and our companies, our teams, and we have to recognize that we are part of the greater whole. And that how does this operation here support the whole? And where doesn't it? And where it doesn't, let's shore it up. Let's redesign. Let's re-architecture. Let's take a look at our supply chains. Let's take a look at, so it's not just within the transformation happens, it starts here, and then it goes deeper into the granularity of how we actually run our businesses.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's interesting. We had recently we spoke to somebody, and she's an old family friend, and she said, "Well, can you explain to me what do you actually do?" And then I said, "We are helping leaders become more authentic, connect with themselves, and live and work from that space, connected with their wisdom, connected with their uh, um, creativity, and connected with other people." And she said, but do they actually want to do that?
Yeah.
So there is, I mean, she's a lady of 70 something years of age. So I assume that in her mind, she has the old leaders with a fist, but there are so many still people that are working and operating under the same model. Do you see it changing, and why would people want to be more uh, uh, leading from the knowledge that you are sharing?
Well, again, having compassion for that old school way of leadership, I see that it had validity, it has power, it comes from militaristic thinking, it comes from those times and eras that are still prevalent here on the earth, where militaristic command chains and all the things are valid and valuable if you need to conquer. But ultimately, business is not about conquering. Business is about the sharing of one's goods, services for the betterment of each other, to support life, to arise together ultimately. And so, there's an old joke, what's the difference between capitalism and communism or socialism? And the answer is in one system, man exploits man. And in the other system, it's the exact opposite. Man exploits man. So the way I've experienced it, it's not the doctrine, it's not the philosophies, it's who we are within. So if I within myself recognize that my leadership, um, if I bottom line is it's pragmatic. If you're an old school leader and you recognize this authoritarian way of leadership, it has validity, but you start to notice that modern people, millennials, teams nowadays, they're not just inspired by money. They're just not inspired by having a paycheck. They want to find a place where they can have deeper fulfillment, deeper joy, happiness, spending 40, 50 hours a week in work, 60 hours plus. People want to have a place where they can have affinity. They can have a sense that their creativity is being appreciated and can flourish and can have an expression. They have a desire and a calling that, if you're a leader nowadays, you know that people are coming and going. And unless you have an environment that is conducive to not just the growth of the business, but the growth of the individual and the growth of the individual, the group collective affinity, coherence, then you'll maintain and you'll keep the top performers in your company, because we are in the era now where people are wanting more of a holistic place of growth and contribution. Knowing this, it's not only makes sense, it's essential that we move our models towards this holism, this holistic form of running our operations. It's not only smart, wise, but it's also the most profitable bottom line impact you can make in your company.
Yeah, and you know what, you touched on it before as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's the path of least resistance, right? It just feels right. And even for these old school leaders, I'd hazard a guess that, because they're human like us, right? When they experience working with other people, when they have a deep connection with other humans that they're, working with, whether it's their colleagues, with their friends, their family, it just feels right. That's what we're built for, right? And all we're pointing to for people that's listening is just that that's leadership as well. The more you're congruent with who you are, just being comfortable, I guess, in your own skin, the better leader you are, right?
Then you're trustable. Trust has an
Absolutely.
emanation. Mira, you were saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was, yeah, please.
Trust, who you're being, has an emanation, has a transmission. The more you're authentically aligned to not outside values or mission statements and visions that are on a board or on a wall somewhere, the more they're sourced in your own self and your own being. And you're living in congruent and you're aiming, no one's perfect, but we aim to be more and more everyday congruent with our deepest values and ethics and intention. Then that creates a transmission. It creates a vortex of power. It creates a presence that is felt through that is felt. And people are wanting to follow that depth, that gravitas of presence that's anchored in real depth of purpose and mission and activation of that. No one, no one really listens to just loud mouths and loud energy. There's a deeper form of silent power that emerges, that calls, that beckons, that draws, that evokes the best out of our teams and their congruency and their loyalty, because we are now loyal to something that is deeper than just the surface of life.